Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, let's see how popular is that dictator. Oh, which one? Oh, the war criminal. Which one? The second Adolf. Yeah, that's Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. So, dictators usually are not popular. Wouldn't you agree with that? Yeah, I would agree with that. But somehow this one is kind of like popular in his reign, in his, where he's leading and oppressing his people. Oh, is the propaganda that works. Okay, these Russians must have broken a code or something, because not even the democratic free world is capable of fooling us with the free mass media as Putin is able with his tards in the mass media. They must have cracked the code somewhere, don't you think? And maybe the Russian population has a, if you know what I mean, below 86, all of them, all this. But hey, it can't be possible, because the Germans in the 30s and 40s were the most educated population on this planet, nation. And they were still fooled by the, how come? And the media, then it was just some newspapers, it didn't access all the idiots, right? Now, you're bombarded, you have alternative, sources to check and so on. So what could it be? Could it be because he's doing something that his people, are the only ones he's supposed to please, like? I don't know, that's a question. But I think it's a fair question if we are to analyze a situation or a statement in an objective way. We should take things that we like, we should take things that we don't like, but most importantly, we should take things as they are, regardless of liking or not liking, because liking and not liking, that will interfere with our ability to gather the information, analyze the information, reach the conclusion. Correct? Correct. See how much I agree with myself? Anyway, this article comes from Sputnik and is from today, I was about to say 14th, we're on the 16th of December 2022. Opinion poll. Putin trusted by 75% of Russians. 77% assess president's performance positively. Oh, hold your horses, I got it. This comes from Russia, this is the Russian opinion poll and all that. Probably conducted by Russian weasels and all, I got that, okay? But 75% still is more than 30-something, the shuffling madness, the semi-conscious Biden has, or Macron, who has like 31 or 32. And Scholz, who's in the 40s or something. So I think it's still pretty high. Oh, that's the big lie thing? Oh, we don't want to get into that one, because we're going to affect some people that we don't want to affect them. And I'm not talking about that guy. I'm talking about other people. Those guys. Anyway, so let's go and see. Around 75%, well, because of the margin of error, 75% of Russians trust Russian President Vladimir Putin, with 77% giving a positive assessment of his performance. A poll conducted by Russia's Public Opinion Foundation, FOM, showed on Friday. When asked if Putin performs rather well or rather badly, 77% assessed his performance positively. 11% expressed disappointment with his work. What do you mean? Because there could be a disappointment that he didn't blow up the Ukrainians in 3 days? Yeah, a lot of Russians are probably disappointed with that outcome. So is that what it is? Disappointed with his work. And 12% refrained from responding. The results are the same as in the same poll last week. The poll also found that 75% of respondents trust Putin, 14% do not trust him, and 11% are undecided. The poll was conducted among 1,500 adult Russians from December 9 to December 11 through interviews at their place of residence. The statistical error does not exceed 3.6%, so up and down. Another poll conducted by the Russian Public Opinion Research Center VCIOM showed that 78.3% of respondents trust Putin and 74.3% approve of his work. The all-Russian VSIOM Sputnik telephone survey was conducted from December 5 to December 11 among 1,600 adult Russians. The margin of error does not exceed 1%, with a confidence level of 95%. Well, this is what they say. I mean, in between, just to be honest with you, I'm not going to, how to call that, whatever, my horn, anyway. But it's, I kind of know something about these kind of things. Anyway, we all do. It's not that complicated. But we also know the human nature. And human nature is, as we know it is, subjective and all that. So, obviously, they have interest in doing this. But you tell me, or I tell you, actually, why should I believe the American opinion polls conducted in the United States, but I should not trust the Russians? It's just because I say that the Russians are bad, it's because their system allegedly is a tyrannical versus our full of freedoms and democracy. And let me play you a little Paganini here. Okay, which one is it? Because if you tell me that these guys here, United States or Canada, I don't put Canada. I have relatives, good friends, relatives in Canada, and Canada is a hijacked country, I think, by some communists, and unfortunately they work for a globalist. I can't say more because you never know. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, a few clicks and you find out. So you don't have to dig too deep. In this case, why should I believe the Americans? Do you think that these guys have how do you call it, as a friend of mine, good friend, good. I mean, you have a good friend or a bad friend. It's a friend. A friend of mine that I like very much, he told me that, hey, when I was pointing something out to this gentleman, he's a gentleman, he earned that. He was telling, we were talking about, I was saying, hey, you know what, in the United States, like anywhere else, who's got the guns, what departments are having that, and that they hold the power, not the politicians, because the politicians can always be rounded up by those guys, but those guys cannot be rounded up by the politicians if it's a infight, you know what I mean? So I said military, the intelligence services, these guys who has the information, has the power, who has all of that, you can fight them, they are the ones in control. And this was his answer. Well, do you think that America is like a junta from South America? No. And I was like, okay, give me something, give me an argument, support your statement. He said, Americans are more sophisticated people. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Okay, and that's all I said. So sophisticated that they elected Obama 2 times. He was against Obama, so he was like, that's why I mentioned that. I said, so sophisticated that they elected Obama 2 times. That's sophistication, huh? And then before that they got Bush the second, who's lower than Obama in, I think, in IQ. They're pretty much over there, but they're below 80 something. And they were both at Harvard, and one of them was a Yale graduate. And you can make things up. Ivy League schools. Why do I say Obama is below 86? Because when you watch or listen to his speeches, he has a lot of form, but no substance. All right? Maybe you say, well, that's the genius. That's how a politician be. Well, maybe I'm in the wrong business. I thought the politicians are the ones who are supposed to defend us, be this, have certain kind of characteristics. Well, a politician here explained to me that as a politician you need to have one quality, charisma. And I was like, really? Yeah. So that means you have to fool people into believing that you're going to do something that you're incapable maybe of doing, or incapable. He said, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Well, that's why I like democracy so much, because it's how you look and how you speak, not what you're able to really do and do. And then, well, they hold you accountable after 4 years. In 4 years, I wreck a country and a nation. Look at Zelensky in 1 year. So, okay. Anyway, This was with sophisticated people, all right? So if we are talking about Russians being not sophisticated and these guys being sophisticated, hold your horses. Yeah, there are some characteristics, differences, and between cultures. I understand that, and I definitely agree with that. There are better cultures, and there are good cultures, and there are cultures. But why? Because you look at the outcome. Anyway, let's move on. Putin has this 75 approval or whatever, 70 something. He's never been below 70 or 75 since he's been in office. I think he has been one time. One time before some elections, I saw an American, I can't remember what election. He was a candidate for presidency, obviously. And he had like 62 or something like this, and he was elected by 65. That was the lowest that I saw Putin do. And any time after that or before, it was over 80, over 78 up to 90 almost. Now, you have to be very consistent in lying, you know what I mean? And these polls were not done only by the public, Russian paid or whatever. They were independent polls that were conducted. He must be doing something right, I take it. I don't think it is maybe everything is in it. The subjectivity of the people who create the polls, how the polls are gathered. They lie, they add, they subtract. The population depends what kind of, who you talk to and so on. The methods, the questions, how you formulate it. There are many things that play in there. And yeah, there's a lot of subjectivity in it. But it's not, I don't think it's, oh my God, much less than would be here or another country just because they are Russians. But we are to believe that's the main, how should I call it, variable here, or how should I put it, maybe constant, because that's the Russians are bad. We know that one, put it over there. So that doesn't vary, actually, if we know that's a constant then. And then what do we do? Do we believe that? Well, you have to put yourself in the Russian shoes and realize how they see the world. If you can push away and wash your way of seeing things and you go into a Russian, they see themselves. I'm generalizing, but as a majority, they see themselves alone versus these guys who are attacking everybody else if they don't follow orders, and that's a fact. I mean, I don't have to go back 30 years and give you at least 5 examples when NATO, the defensive alliance, plus the United States, who's NATO actually, invaded and did all kind of hanky-panky that were, to say the least, questionable, okay? Outright illegal if you take the Yugoslavia 1999 bombardment of the defensive alliance. So Russians see this. We tend to forget these things. As a criminal, tends to forget the crimes, but the victim never forgets the crime that was perpetrated. Why? Because that person has to live with that forever. Now, why do you think? Do you think the Serbs will love the America? No, unless you brainwash them a few generations, but they will keep having it. This is what they did to us. This is what these guys tell us to do. These guys are telling the Russians to do something that they didn't do then, and so on. So, yeah, that's why when there was the September 11 attacks on America, right? 2001, right? Why do they hate us? I think they hate our freedoms. That was the idiocracy that was, and people were really believing that. Really, the sophisticated, okay? Sophisticated. I was like, okay, guys, all right. And I was thinking, isn't because maybe you support that country over there? Isn't maybe because you have bases over there, military bases? Is it because you keep propping tyrants in the Middle East? Could all that play a role? Could you be seen as a bully, pushing everybody around? Could it be that maybe they lost family members over there, parents, brothers, sisters, because of that country, that policy, that military intervention, and that, and they will never forget? Is that possible? But you don't even remember those things? Isn't it because you did what you did in Iran and many other locations? Those people don't forget. We don't even know about them. The American public. They forget. Those guys do not forget. Like, for instance, in Romania. Romanians don't forget that the Soviets, when they came over, they took the railway, how do you call it? They took them with them. on the way back, and other stuff, or like a victim of a rape. She's not gonna forget that forever, ever. Let's put it this way. So anyway, but the rapist is gonna go from one to another to another to another. You're gonna forget who he raped. I don't know, 20 years ago. If in between are like 50 others. Oh, wow, what? Who? What was her name? How did she look? Anyway, thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.